weather or whatnot, and we had to take her dinner in buckets to school. And half the time we was so embarrassed to take to eat.
What did you take in your lunch boxes
Well,
to school?
biscuits, and sometimes old fat bacon maybe in between, and some I don't know. And it seemed like sometimes she'd just put syrup on. We wouldn't have any butter or anything. We just had a terrible time. We were so ashamed we'd try to hide out when we'd go to eat our dinner from the other kids where they wouldn't see us eat, That's a terrible life to live. And we'd just feel so embarrassed. And there we'd go home so hungry. We wouldn't know what to do. And when it's time to paint the garden, my mother, now after they painted onions, us kids would go home and maybe she'd have a pan of cornbread cooked. And we'd eat up cornbread and go out and get us an old onion out of the garden. And we thought we had a feast, just cornbread and onions, because back in those days, with 8 kids and all, we were so poor we didn't have nothing. My daddy didn't seem to care. We'd stay in one house about 1 year when we'd rent a place. We'd stay about a year. We finally got able enough that we bought a 60-acre farm with a 3-roomed house in it. And I believe it was all paid for. We all paid for it. And we got to stay there about a year, and nothing, sold it, and away we went again. Wouldn't stay there. And we could have had a chance there to, or had something, but he didn't care. Well, everywhere we went, we never had milk or eggs, no chickens. And us kids, we'd just starve to death for milk to drink. And we would get so hungry for some milk and bread, cornbread. When Mom would make cornbread, we'd get a slice of water and mash that cornbread up in that water and eat it for milk. Well, that's the truth. Because we would be so hungry, and my dad didn't seem to care at all, didn't seem to mind if we had it, and we had to do what he said or else. And he was awful easy to use a switch or cotton stalks or anything to whip us with. If we was picking cotton, we had to keep our backs off the ground all the time, and had to pick so much or he'd get us. And if we raised up, he'd yell at us to get our back down there and get to work again. And we didn't have nothing. No, we didn't have nothing. One time we had a good start and a pretty good home, but he got tired of that and up and sold all of our cattle. We had a few head of cattle. We did have our milk. He sold them, and away we went again. Nothing to go to. Didn't have no home. Didn't have nowhere to go. We couldn't go to church. Couldn't go nowhere because we didn't have shoes. We didn't have clothes to go. We just get ourselves out and I tell you, it almost makes me cry to think about it. Because we didn't have no chance for nothing. To think, well, when Sunday comes, it's just another Sunday day. We didn't.
Well, I was going to say, did you ever get to go to church on Sundays?
Never, because we was never at a place close to a church. We'd be parked out on an old road somewhere. And one time we parked out in an old house is full of old cotton sacks and cotton, and we slept in that house on those old sacks one night. Cotton sacks. And I think it's me or one of the others got so sick, and my mother was up all night waiting on us, trying to do something for us. There wasn't nothing to do. Just living there in that shack, you couldn't get nobody out there. And that was my childhood life, and it was a lot worse than that.